Hi there, TheNamesNiko, and today I will cover every character's meta build or builds and what food you should make on this route. I just wanted to add a few things in. I started off using the recommended builds, then just taking the builds from doc.gd and were the most used or by top NA players. I probably will just go to using the most used builds in the next part of the series, so the builds may seem to be all over the place, especially for characters and or weapons that have low use rates. Keeping this in mind, let's begin with Jackie, specifically Axe Jackie. The highest recommended build for Axe Jackie is a Beam Axe crit build at the time of this recording. It goes Cemetery, Hospital, Dock, and with the Stallion Medal as a search material. And so, any route that goes Cemetery, Hospital, or Hospital, Cemetery, you want to make mocha bread. Mocha bread is coffee plus alcohol to make coffee liqueur, and then coffee liqueur plus bread to make mocha bread. And so you want to pick up a coffee from a cemetery, do not drink it, just hold on to it in your inventory, and then grab alcohol in hospital to make coffee liqueur. Then use the bread that you started with to make mocha bread. Mocha bread has 700 HP, and you can create 4 mocha bread with 1 coffee and 1 alcohol and 2 bread, so you'll be good until you're finished your build to hoard lighters and dock. From dock, you can make fish cutlets by catching cod in dock and then finding oil in Uptown, Factory, Avenue, or Archery Range. Then you can get potatoes in Temple, Pond, or Alley to make french fries to then make fish and chips. Another axe build that you can run is the Santa Muertes Dobok build. This build goes Temple, Beach, Hospital, Pond, Avenue. Unfortunately, there isn't really any good food you can build on this run early on, so I would make garlic bread in Temple. Although it is not a food that is at least 600 HP, it is good enough early game. Later on, you will want to make better food. If you end up grabbing lighters out of the 3 bins in Alley that are close to Temple, you can make boiling water to make oriental concoctions in Pond. You can also make Send Vitality if you grab oriental herbs from Temple, turtle shells from Beach, and then needles plus alcohol in Hospital. Next is Two-Handed Sword Jackie. The highest two-handed sword build is technically a dual swords build, but in terms of actual two-handed sword builds, it would be a lifesteal build that goes Hospital, Beach, Uptown. So on this route, you should make pound cake. Pound cake is made by milk plus branch to make butter and then bread. Branches are located here in Hospital and here in Beach. Pound cake has 600 HP, and you can make a total of 4 if you grab 1 milk out of a container, since you get a stack of 2 milk for every one you pick up. Or you can make chocolate chip cookies if you save your milk until Uptown. This will depend on how many people start in Uptown and how fast you are out of Beach. The next Jackie weapon is dual swords. So there are 2 popular dual sword builds, Lifesteal and Spell Amp. So for Lifesteal, your route may be Dock, Uptown, Hospital, Temple. Here you can grab lighters in Dock. You can then save these lighters for Uptown, where there is oil to make either fish cutlets or curry croquettes. You can also grab boxes from Dock and grab chocolate in Uptown to make choco pie boxes. But saving the boxes may cause you to have an inventory crisis since the boxes do not stack. In this clip you can see I do not have any inventory room. Where is the carbonated water when you need it? The last weapon type for Jackie is Dagger. The top build is a Carwinin attack speed build with some lifesteal. The route is Chapel, Uptown, Hospital, Pond, Avenue. So here you can either make pound cake or chocolate chip cookies by grabbing milk in Chapel and then either using the bread you started with or grabbing chocolate in Uptown. Or you can save your bread and grab coffee in Uptown, and when you get to Hospital, you grab alcohol to make mocha bread. Mocha bread is 700 HP and is great food. I opted to do the second option, but chocolate chip cookies or pound cake are fine too. The next character in order of release date is Aya, so we will start with Pistol Aya. So this first route was highly used, but I think it has fallen out of the meta because of all the factory, chapel, and cemetery goers in the game such as Luke, Kathy, Yuki, and Hart. It is a Devil's Marksman build that goes Factory, Chapel, Cemetery, Pond, Avenue. There's a lot of good food you can make on this route. In Factory alone, you can make curry croquettes. You can also make tandoori chicken in Factory, but you only get 1 of that food, so ideally you should not make it. If you go Chapel, you can make pound cake by grabbing milk, but the food I opted for was mocha bread, which you can make between Factory and Cemetery. Chapel is a quick stop for this build, so there's plenty of time for you to make mocha bread. If Cemetery is quite busy at the start because there's a lot of crit users, Kiaras, or Harts that will go Cemetery's second zone, I would make curry croquettes or pound cake instead. The current meta pistol Aya runs Elegance. The top pistol AI users in NA all ran Elegance, so the top Elegance build in the recommended tab goes Hospital, Pond, Avenue. You can make pound cakes by grabbing milk in Hospital, or by making acupuncture needles in Hospital and then making herbal medicine in Pond, then combining the two to make Zen Vitality. Or you can make orchids with oriental herbs plus flour, and then grabbing glass bottles in Avenue, combining them to make healing potions. The next Aya weapon is the Assault Rifle, also known as AR. There's really only one route for AR Aya, which is Factory, Cemetery, Chapel, and Uptown. After Uptown, you would go to Forest to grab the Tree of Life. Food is the same as the double marksman build, which would be pound cake, curry croquettes, or mocha bread. With AR though, to make your weapon, the Agni, you need to make heated oil anyway, so I would make curry croquettes as well as mocha bread. You only need 1 heated oil for your weapon, and you craft 3 heated oil per lighter and oil, so use the other 2 with curry powder. Save your bread to make mocha bread once you are in Cemetery, but be warned that if you grab 2 stacks of lighters, you'll have an inventory crisis as I did. The last Aya weapon is Sniper. Now, this was my main character in Season 1 that I got to gold with, so I know this character from the back of my hand. Here, you want to make garlic bread in Temple. Although it's not a 600 HP food, having some decent early game food is good. Garlic bread has 500 HP and you craft 2, which is kind of insane for a 1-zone food. Then, when you stop in alley by Temple, or when you go to school or alley, grab lighters, which you want to boil both waters ideally, but if you need SP, use 1 to make soju in school with alcohol. Otherwise, boil both waters, then make 2 hot honey waters, 2 oriental concoctions, and 2 hard-boiled eggs once you arrive in Forest. The next character is Fiora. The most popular weapon is Rapier at the moment, but I do cover the other 2 weapons as well. But with Rapier, you would either make Volta or Durandal Mark II. I'll cover the Durandal Mark II route, which is Avenue, Hospital, Cemetery, Pond, Temple. In Avenue alone, you can make pound cake, chocolate chip cookies, and honey butter. In Hospital, you can make a first aid kit, but I rarely see anyone make one since you need to carry a lot of resources until you're finally able to craft it. But once you reach Cemetery, you can make mocha bread by grabbing alcohol in Hospital and coffee in Cemetery. I opt out of making the butter food when there are alternatives a lot of the time because it takes time to grab the branches off the ground when you can be looting. And looting early on is extremely important since other people are probably taking resources that you need to finish your build. Also, you may need to go out of your way to grab the branches, which also takes time. But by crafting food that you can just grab out of containers saves you a lot of time. So do keep this in mind when you choose between crafting butter food products or something else. The next weapon type for Fiora is two-handed sword. Now this build isn't run that often because most people would rather play Rapier, or if they wanted a two-handed sword character they would run Yuki, but if you do run two-handed sword Fiora, a common route would be Cemetery, Hospital, Dock. Cemetery and Hospital, you would make mocha bread by grabbing coffee in Cemetery and alcohol in a Hospital, or you can make pound cake. You can also get lighters in Dock to make other food later on. The last weapon type for Fiora is Spear. Now there's really only one route for Spear, which goes Cemetery, Hospital, Chapel, Dock. It may change this order, such as starting in Hospital, then Cemetery, or going Cemetery, then Chapel, but regardless it is the same 4 zones. The same food you would make with two-handed you would make with Spear, which would be mocha bread or pound cake. You can grab lighters in Dock to make food later on. You cannot make any additional food in Chapel comparing to the two-handed sword route. Just a note here that I decided to not record the rest of the footage in normals because it was taking too long, so the rest of the video is using bots. The same facts will apply, but it makes it easier on me. Next character is Magnus. So with Hammer Magnus, which is less popular, you would run a Spell Lamp build using Fang Mace. Your popular build goes Temple, Factory, Hospital. There is a decent amount of food you can make. You can make garlic bread in Temple, and then by grabbing lighters in Factory, you can make curry croquettes. You can also grab oriental herbs in Temple to make oriental concoctions in Factory by boiling water. On this run, I make curry croquettes, but there are a variety of food you can make on this route. With Bat Magnus, you would want to run a Spy Umbrella route, which there is none in the recommended tab, so I looked up a route on Dr. GG, but it seemed to be focused on KR Meta, which was a Rocker's Jacket 6-zone build. I did record the footage, but I think it will provide no value to you, since 6-zone builds are not ideal in NA meta, because they take too long. But I'll also use some footage of what it looks like here. Yeah, that's the build. So I looked up what the top Magnus player ran in NA on Season 1. This build goes cemetery, chapel, factory, hospital, pond. This is a similar path to Aya. You'd want to make mocha bread between cemetery, factory, pound cake by grabbing milk in chapel, or curry coquettes in factory. I opted to make mocha bread. The next character is Zahir. So with Throw Zahir, there are a few different items you can run, but they do go similar zones. So the build I chose was used by top Zahir player in NA, which goes alley, avenue, pond, temple. Now with Throw Zahir, in order to make your weapon, you need to boil water. You only need one of the 3 boiled water, so you can make a garlic ramen in alley, or save it to make oriental concoction once you reach pond. You can also make a wide variety of food in avenue, such as pound cake, chocolate chip cookies, or honey butter. Or you can make choco pie boxes between avenue pond, which is what I did. You would make choco pies in avenue, and then get the boxes in pond. You can also make healing potions by grabbing glass bottles in avenue, and then making orchids in pond. For Shuriken Zahir, I ended up using build used by the top NA player, which is using Mystic Jade Charm and not Winded Fire wields. On this route, you go school, avenue, temple, pond, which is very similar to Throw Zahir. You would be running the same food as Throw Zahir, which would be butter-related food like pound cake, chocolate chip cookies, or honey butter, choco pies, healing potions, or oriental concoctions. I ended up making chocolate chip cookies and oriental concoctions. The next character is Nadine. So for Bow Nadine, the build that one of the top NA players used goes beach, archery, avenue, hospital. Even if you aren't going to the specific route, many Bow Nadine builds go around beach, hospital, and archery range. There's not really any food you can make in beach, but once you reach archery, you can make choco pies. You can also get chocolate in avenue, or in just avenue, you can make chocolate chip cookies. There are no additional food you can make if you go to a hotel that provides at least 600 HP. And last but not least, Crossbow Nadine. So for Ballista, which is what the top Crossbow Nadine player runs, you want to go hotel, pond, hospital, archery range. So in pond, you would want to make herbal medicine, which then can be turned into Zen Vitality in hospital. You can also make pound cake or honey butter in hospital. You can also make orchids in pond, and once you're finished your build, you can go to a zone with glass bottles to make healing potions. But ideally, as Nadine, you are just farming animals and not going out of your way to grab glass bottles, so I would not do this. In the next part of the series, I will cover the next 6 characters and what food you should run on their routes. The next video should be a lot shorter since there are no more characters with 3 or more weapon types. I also wanted to add that you can make hamburgers on any route since all zones have animals that can drop meat. And since you start with bread, you can make a hamburger. If you have found this guide helpful, please leave a like on this video. I will do some more research into builds for the next video. If you have any questions on what food you should make on your route, and I have already covered one of the builds for that character, please feel free to ask in the comments. If I haven't covered your character yet, stay tuned for the next video. I also stream 4 times a week on Twitch if you have any questions about Return of Return. I hope to see you there.